Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to our Fireside chat. We're going to be having an interesting discussion today and a very relevant and important discussion on building an inclusive and diverse blockchain ecosystem, specifically with women empowerment. So this is an important discussion, and we just have half an hour, so let's dive right in. So let's start with introductions. Miriam, please, if you could kindly introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure we don't want to keep you away from your lunch very long, but my name is Miriam Kiwan. I'm the Vice President for the Middle East and Africa region for Circle. Circle is a financial technology company and a Web3 infrastructure company. We're perhaps better known to be the issuer of USDC, which has been mentioned in a previous panel. USDC is the largest regulated stablecoin in the world. And we focus a lot, as part of what we do, we focus a lot on financial inclusion as part of the delivery and meeting the mission of what stablecoins are meant to do.
Great, thank you. And a little introduction about me as well. So I'm a financial economist and strategist for Metaverse, blockchain, and Web3. I am also a graduate level lecturer with teaching experience in London and Dubai. I've had the opportunity to work with global organizations, including the United Nations, with a focus on social impact and tech for good. I'm also a founder and board member, and I consider myself an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is why I'm thrilled to be here for this conversation. So let's, to set some background information, let's start with how, maybe some background on how you got into the blockchain ecosystem, which tends to be a male-dominated field, and were there any challenges that you faced? And how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, sure. I think it was by accident almost that I started in this space. Back in 2017, I came across the Bitcoin paper, as probably most of us do. And I started looking at Bitcoin with the intention of obviously investing. That didn't happen in 2017. I then moved on to lead the tech ecosystem development in Abu Dhabi as part of the ADGM. Infrastructure, and there I started seeing a lot of business models around the blockchain space. So I became very interested. I started diving a lot more into the space, talking to the founders, the investors, spending a lot of time learning personally. I have a joke with my husband because while he was spending time on Netflix, I spent, all my waking hours outside of work, basically looking at watching podcasts and learning more about sort of the space, which basically automatically gets you into the rabbit hole. And as I contribute to the tech ecosystem development, there was ADGM is known to be one of the leading digital asset regulator in the whole MESA region. It was one of the first in the world after Japan to issue a comprehensive framework around this space. So in addition to learning personally, I started delving deeper with the regulators in terms of understanding how the space is regulated, right? How do we monitor, how do we regulate it? What are the kind of tokens, for example, we would accept and make part of the ecosystem. With that opportunity, I guess at some point I happened to be in the right conversation, in the right meeting, where the time that I spent learning between 2018, I would say, and almost the end of 2019, put me in a place where I was ready to actually take the lead on developing the digital asset ecosystem within ADGM. So, and the rest is history. Obviously, I'm now with Circle, and I'm very much part of that space in the private sector rather than the government space.
Great, that's very interesting.
What about you? Can you tell us a little bit more how you got into the space?
Yes, so my background is financial economics. An evolution of financial economics, specifically in 2016, 2017, there was a lot of focus on fintech. So I started, as it was in part of my field, I started looking into it, and from there I came into blockchain. And blockchain really fascinated my attention. But the thing was that we didn't have any resources like we do now for learning, apart from the white papers and a few here and there, and I wanted to go into it more deeply. So I enrolled in University of Oxford's first blockchain strategy program, and I was blessed with really good teachers. I believe teachers can make such an impact, and they really helped me realize that there's so much potential in the blockchain field as a whole. So being in social good, personally, fortunately, a lot of people were working in social impact, so I didn't face many challenges, but the fact of the matter remains that it tends to be a male-dominated industry. So Time magazine did a study in 2019 which said that only 5 to 6% of people in the blockchain industry were women. And now if we come to 2023, blockchain consulting group BCGX did a joint study with people of crypto. And they said that only 13% of Web3 founding teams had women. And if you look into founders, that number is reduced to 7%. And when it comes to raising venture capital, male founders tend to raise 4 times more capital as compared to women founders. And this is a huge disparity compared to other industries. And this is just in Web3 2020 alone. But we are making progress, so a lot of work still to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from my personal experience, I have to say I was lucky that I did not have a lot of challenges to get into space. And we can discuss a little bit more about what sort of helped shape that. Probably I think this is where organizations can learn from the experience that I had, is just allowing women to have a seat at the table, providing them with the opportunity to contribute, right, to the space. Again, the investment space is very important. When you have an investment committee, make sure that it's diverse, that you have women sitting, making those decisions. And of course, providing, I think, educational programs or giving them the opportunity to develop an upskill. I think these are very, very important factors that can contribute to having more women in this space. I want to differentiate between the idea of sponsorship and mentorship, because I think sometimes we confuse the two. Mentorship is great, where obviously there is a very clear path to support the individual. I think what's missing, and this is where we can do a better job, is to focus on sponsoring women. And this is where I mentioned earlier, sort of allowing them to be part of certain initiatives, recommending them for certain projects. I think that already opens the path for them to grow. And I think women are capable of, sort of marching their own sort of path and building their career. It's just those opportunities that sometimes it's not intentional, so it's just by accident happen. I think it's good to probably keep that in mind. And also for women to speak up. It's sitting and waiting for something to happen is not going to help. So women need to be able to speak up and really ask to be part of initiatives and ask to contribute and do their part of the work.
Yes, I think those are great points. And there are many steps that organizations can take to improve the gender diversity in their organizations. As a first step, organizations and the industry as a whole need to realize that there is a problem. UNDP's Social Gender Norms Index did a report that said 90% of men and women have a bias against women. So there's a general bias, and this study was done 10 years ago, and it was later done again late last year, earlier this year, and there has been no improvement. In fact, the figures have deteriorated. So this obviously goes into the blockchain industry as well, these biases. And the first step is to understand, that these biases exist, and then management commitment to address these biases, which, like you mentioned, there are many initiatives we can take, such as education, leadership training, DEI initiatives, And for all of those, all of you who have your own startups, etc., leanin.org, which is an organization started by Cheryl, and Sheryl Sandberg, it offers free training for improving diversity, equity, and inclusion, gender diversity in your organizations. And it benefits organizations as a whole to improve this gender diversity because International Labor Organization says that by improving women diversity in their organizations, performance is increased by 20% and productivity increased by 60%. Now, moving on, Miriam, so in what ways can blockchain address challenges by women, especially in terms of financial inclusion?
I want to use probably a data point that probably will lead us to how blockchain sort of supports sort of the underserved and specifically women. If we consider the fact that 1.7 billion people are underbanked right now, and I think this was referred to as well in the previous panel, this is a huge segment of the economy that is not able to access to the traditional financial system. Right? So when I look at what we do as Circle by providing this sort of a stable coin, is allowing this segment to actually onboard into the Web3 space and not be left behind. And as we know, the largest segments of the underbanked are women. So for me, this is where, and given that the blockchain is the underlying sort of infrastructure that forms sort of the whole digital asset space and the crypto space, this is where blockchain becomes very important because it empowers women to be independent, financially independent, to allow them to potentially contribute to this blockchain nascent economy that we are all sort of seeing built in front of our eyes, and it's going to basically become the main economy in the future. So they get a chance to be part of that, to contribute, to build their own communities, to build their own businesses, to generate revenue from that. For example, we work with companies in Africa or LATAM or in APAC that, and sort of since we are launching our services here in the region, where we're also onboarding new partners that allow, for example, companies to, within the remittance space, to pay freelancers in these markets using digital assets and using stable coins. Especially if you consider the fact that a lot of these emerging markets have a challenge when it comes to they have to deal with hyperinflation, they have to deal with devaluation of local currencies. So this is where the use of stable coins combined with programmable wallets allow this segment not to only sort of send and receive value, but it also allows them to use these wallets as a store, as a digital jar, if you like, and it allows them to contribute to the development of their own community. So these are some of the examples where we see the use of blockchain, obviously combined with the Web3 solutions that includes the wallets and stablecoins as well.
That's very interesting. And maybe you can provide a quick example of how mobile technology and digital transformation have empowered women in terms of access to financial services.
Yeah, absolutely. I think M-Pesa is a great example in Kenya. M-Pesa sort of as a mobile, it's not even based on blockchain, as a sort of, it's one of the biggest success stories in Africa. And part of the sort of the role of M-Pesa was to empower women, where again they can send, receive, allow them to build businesses around that and be completely independent. So that's one of the examples I can think of. There are more blockchain-based examples as well, including, maybe I could use an example of our own partnership with the UN, where we partnered with UNHCR and the Stella Foundation to enable, for example, the distribution of aid in Ukraine, as an example. And what does that achieve is that not only it does save in terms of reducing the fees that are associated with distributing some of these this aid, it also allows women specifically within these war-torn sort of regions to be able to save in digital assets, and it also allows them to convert that into cash when they need it through our partners, MoneyGram as an example of a partner that can actually help them do that. But what is important as well here is that we can also track the distribution, so we know that the money is going directly to the women that need to receive it. So it reduces corruption, and it also deals with the hyperinflation sort of and the challenges that tend to sort of be linked to some of these challenges that we see around the world today.
That's very interesting.
Based on the work you do, I'm sure you're seeing, I mean, you have contributed to a lot of these initiatives. Can you share with us probably some of your examples as well?
Yes. So there are a lot of initiatives that are working for good in blockchain. And I think most important when it comes to women empowerment and understanding and recognizing these opportunities is, first of all, being educated in this industry. The World Economic Forum's Future of Job report says that 75% of organizations are planning to upskill within the next 5 years, and with technologies including blockchain. So this is a great opportunity for women to upskill, and there are a lot of resources that are available for everyone, and specifically those targeted for women as well. So since we are talking on women empowerment, some of the resources available, of course, there are courses which you can take for free on Coursera and edX, but there are also courses which are offered by, for example, the Frankfurt Blockchain School, available for free online, specifically the DLT, Distributed Ledger Technology course for women leaders. So this field obviously needs more women leaders, so this is a free scholarship program which you can apply to. They also have a Web3 talents program which has DeFi talents, ReFi, regenerative finance talents, excuse me, and NFT talents. So I have personally taken these, and I highly encourage more women to look into these. Women in Tech has an organization, the global organization, has also partnered with Binance to provide free blockchain leadership training to women, 2,800 women in 5 countries. So that is also something that you can look into. If you're looking for mentors, because a lot of us are, first of all, it's always great to reach out as well. You know, the whole ethos of Web3 and blockchain is community. So it's always good to reach out, but if, you know, if someone is busy, etc., which, you know, life gets busy, you can also register on Women in Tech's program website online, and you can register for a mentorship if you need, and they will provide you with mentors, or if you want to be a mentor, you can be a mentor as well. UNICEF has partnered with Women in Tech and Giga Initiative to provide a free training for Web3, which I was really honored to conduct. That is also available for free online. There are a lot of initiatives. If you're a developer in blockchain, a woman developer, look into DAOs such as Her DAO, which will help women, which will provide scholarships to women developers to go to different hackathons around the world and connect with opportunities in the blockchain industry. So there are a lot of different ways, but we are running out of time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for me, the bottom line is that this is really, we should be at a point where we're not talking about men and women, right? And I think this goes to also the organizers of this event. I think having a panel with 2 women is not what tends to happen, because we know what the issues are. I think this is where we can be diverse and have men and women discussing the topic. The empowerment of women and onboarding women on Web3 has an impact on the global economy. We have to onboard this segment because it impacts not only, so you can even link it to ESG. It impacts the social development of the country. It impacts sort of the economic, sort of the financial and economic impact of different regions. So for me, this is what's important, is really having an inclusive Web3 community that is building an economy that we are going to be dealing with in the coming decade or 2. And I think this goes to also onboarding sort of the next generation, whether they're girls or boys. And I think all of the elements that we touched on today are very important to do that. So education, awareness, sponsorship, mentorship, providing programs, making sure when we invest, we have a diverse group of investors, because that's how you're going to impact the kind of sort of companies that will come next, right? Founders as well. When you're founding a company, make sure your team is diverse, because it's not just a gender diversity, it's about diversity of thoughts as well.
Yes, I think we all need to work together, and I think this is great because the fact that all of you stayed here shows that there's a huge community out there who wants to work together to build a more inclusive and diverse ecosystem. So thank you so much, Miriam, for your inputs, and thank you all of you for being such a great audience. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.